Okay, if we are going to try to learn how to slow down as part of our new reaction to anxiety, fear, and stress, we have to learn what speeding up really looks like. So it's Monday, which means this is episode 36 of Recovery Monday, and we're going to talk about that today. So let's put the chat overlay up so you guys can see what everybody is saying. We'll wait for everybody to sort of file in. How's everybody doing today? Let me know where you're coming from. Let me know how you're doing. Just a quick reminder, sort of a housekeeping thing, that we are doing lessons out of this book now every Monday, 7% Slower. This is basically a guide to recognizing and changing that automatic speed response that most people have when you find that you are anxious, afraid, or stressed. So we're going through this book every Monday, released as close to every Monday as we can manage. Today, we're going to talk about chapter 3, which is called "What Does Your Speed Response Look Like?" We'll go over it. It's a pretty short chapter. These are all relatively short chapters. This book is much shorter than The Anxious Truth. So it's a nice, easy read. If, in fact, you do not have a copy of this book and you would like to find it, you can find it on my website at theanxioustruth.com, or it has its own website called 7%slower.com. So you can check it out. What is up, everybody? We have the UK here. Russia is here. California is here. Oregon is here. Like, everybody's here. The usual suspects all filing in. Good to see everybody. Let's get into it. There's about 30 people here already, so we'll kind of get into the going through chapter 3. So chapter 3, every chapter starts with a little lizard guy. Like, this is all about the lizard brain. So I use the lizard all the time in this book. And I start the chapter by saying rushing is a thing we often do without realizing that we're doing it. So you can't really fix a thing unless you can see a thing. So this is all about learning to recognize your rushing around habits. What do your speeding habits look like? So before, most of the time, if you're one of the people who does sort of automatically go into speed demon mode when anxious, which is most people, but I do understand not everybody, but most people do have this response, and that's what I was writing for. So if this is your response to anxiety, fear, panic, stress, then you are likely speeding up without even really knowing that you're doing it. It becomes so automatic from us that we just do it, and we don't know that we're doing it, and we keep doing it because we're not even aware of it. So we don't even know that we're supposed to try to, like, maybe change that habit, which just makes sense. You're not doing anything any wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. So if you automatically speed up when you're anxious, it's totally okay. What up? Epic Fox is here. Good to see you again. Oh, and I think on Twitch, we have another Twitch person. Thanks for coming by from Twitch. So I appreciate that. Anyway, so we want to try to discover, what do those habits look like? We all have sort of those telltale signs that inform us and let us know, like, oh, I'm feeling really anxious. I have a lot of anxiety right now, or I'm super stressed and I'm stressed out, and I'm starting to speed up here. What tells me that I'm starting to speed up? So the first thing that I talked about is being aware of the thoughts that you start to have. So when you are stressed, when you're anxious, and I gave a couple of little examples. So when you start to talk to yourself in these sort of ways, these are good indicators that you're probably automatically kicking into speed demon mode. So, OMG, I hate this. That's a really common statement. I hate this. Now, that by itself doesn't necessarily mean that you're speeding up, but I need to get out of here. That's another one. I just want to get this over as quick as possible. So if you're in the middle of a challenging situation, or maybe you're doing an exposure and you are telling yourself that you just need to get it over with as quick as possible, there's a really good chance that you're speeding up. I need to get back to my comfort zone really quickly. My body has a mind of its own. I feel trapped. I have to get out of here. These are all good indicators when you start to talk to yourself this way that you might be speeding up automatically. So it's good to become aware of some of those things. The other thing that starts to happen is that we change our physical behaviors, right? So there are physical behaviors that are telltale signs of speeding up as well. And this was a big one for me. So a couple of the things that I examples I put in the book was breath holding. If you're holding your breath, there's a really good chance that you're also speeding up and like really kind of getting into that high gear mode. If you're shortening your stride when you walk, if you are increasing the speed that you walk, if you're tensing your muscles, are you grimacing? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you darting your eyes back and forth? Are you fumbling? Are you dropping things? Do you find that you are shaking? Are you stumbling over words? You're having a hard time finding your words. Are you furiously, like, doom scrolling through Instagram or my Facebook group, hoping to find something that's going to make you feel better? These are really good indicators that you might be in speed up mode. Another one that a lot of people miss that I threw in here, and I'm surprised at the feedback that I get, is sort of the self hug. And now, look, don't at me here for picking on the self hug. I'm not picking on the self hug, but the self hug, when you start to adopt not necessarily this exact thing, But when you start to do that hunch over thing and you start to kind of bend over and you begin to turn inward on yourself, that's another good indicator that you are in a stressed situation and you may actually be speeding up, right? So that's one way. There's other ways to look at that. That's a defensive posture, and they're good indicators that, like, hey, something is going on here, and am I racing around like a crazy person right now? So another way that you can sort of tell if you have gone automatically into speed demon escape mode. Now remember that really speed mode is an escape mode. I need to get out of here. I need to get away from this threat as quickly as I possibly can. So just going back to the first couple of lessons, when we speed up that way and we continue to run around and we continue to feed more speed, rush around. Yes, I have to do it this way. We're basically telling our brains, yes, this is danger and we got to get out of here. So you're reinforcing your lizard brain. That's why the lizard on the cover and all through the book, you're reinforcing the fact that your lizard brain is wrong. It's sounding for false alarms. So we want to try to change this habit so that we can send those signals back down the chain to tell your lizard brain that, like, I know you think that we got a problem here, but I promise we really don't. Okay, so another way that you can tell whether or not you are kind of going into speed demon mode is the way you conduct yourself. Now, things like breath holding and clenching your jaw are almost automatic, they're almost involuntary, they're almost reflexive, but other things are conscious choices. Are you ending conversations early? You're in a conversation and you start to feel anxious or panicked, or you're feeling really stressed out. Are you trying to find a way to end that conversation early? Um, are you leaving tasks unfinished? How many people here watching have literally abandoned a shopping cart full of groceries at the supermarket? I know I did that. I've done that. When I was at my worst, I did that. So, how many people have ended a task early and just dropped everything and ran out back to the safety of your car, or back to go back home, or whatever it happens to be? That's another good indicator. Are you postponing tasks? If you are feeling really anxious and afraid in a moment, you have something coming up. Is your first thought, "Oh, I need to cancel this or postpone what's coming up because I'm too anxious right now." And notice when you're doing these things, these are indicators that, like, oh, I'm in an anxious and stressed state. Am I speeding up? Now, I want to talk for a quick second about the idea of there's some of those other almost reflexive behaviors and things like stumbling over words, fumbling with objects, right? You're fumbling with objects. You can't find your words. You're stuttering. You're having a hard time making sense. Those sort of things. A lot of people see those situations as indicators that there really is a danger. So that, oh my God, I can't even speak, is a big thing. But when you are trying to speak really quickly and in a pressure situation, we all have a hard time finding words. So there's a reason for that. I mean, if somebody is in a, super stress situation, you run up to somebody on the street and say, I'll give you $10 million if you can name four animals if you give them the letter P. They would probably say a lot of and you wouldn't think twice about that. They would be stumbling over their words because you've given them 10 seconds to earn $10 million. The pressure is on, and they would stumble over their words because every human being does that. Let me think. Let me think. You can't find your words because you're trying to speak really fast. You're trying to think really fast. So the fact that you have a hard time with your words and you're stumbling on your words isn't isn't a sign of danger. It's a sign of the anxious response. Like, I'm under pressure and trying to escape it. So my words are pressured, my speech is fast, and I'm stumbling over my words. That's normal. But that's a symptom of the response. That isn't confirmation that something is really wrong. A lot of people get completely freaked out by that because I lose the ability to speak. I can't find my words, and they think that's a confirmation that there really is something wrong. Okay. The other thing is that physically fumbling with things. And the best way I could describe this one, it's another thing. People feel like if I'm fumbling with my keys and my pen and my phone and I drop my phone, and because you're so anxious and you're doing everything really quickly, in that stress situation, we tend to lose a little bit of manual dexterity. That's normal. So if you're watching a scary movie right now, and the monster was after the young woman, and she's running out of the house because she doesn't want to get caught by the monster, and she runs to her car. How many times have we seen this scene in a scary movie where she's fumbling, or maybe an older scary movie because there really aren't keys anymore, but she's fumbling with her keys? I'll tell you, in the 1970s, 1980s, early 1990s, good thing for keys because they were a great device for those scary scenes in movies. The person is trying to get away from the demon, from the monster, from the serial killer, and they're fumbling with their keys to get the right key, fumbling to put the key in the ignition. They can't do it. They can't do it because they're shaking. Again, that's an indicator of going really fast because you are afraid. That's not an indicator that something is wrong with you, that somehow you're fumbling with your keys now. I just wanted to point that out because a lot of people see those two things, the stumbling over words and the fumbling physically with things, manual dexterity with their hands, as confirmation that there really is danger, but it's not. It's actually just confirmation that you are in a threat response mode right now. It doesn't confirm the threat. It just confirms that you're trying to escape a threat, even if none exists, right? So that's really important. So in this situation, I really end this chapter, and again, it's a short chapter, with sort of your first little kind of hack in a way. Um, and again, I always say in here that this is not in any way a thing that's designed to immediately turn off your brain, immediately stop your thoughts, immediately stop your panic. Not at all. What I basically say is you should maybe spend a little bit of time. And I think want to say I think one person is listening to is in the video right now that had the index cards, because I actually in the book gave you a little bit of homework. Say, well, go home and spend some time and start to see how many of those habits you can identify. Write them down, put them on a piece of paper, or put them on index cards or on a note on your phone. And then once you have all those down, one of the first little hacks that you can do that I put in the book is when you start to recognize those things. So that's on my list. Oh yeah, that's right. I fumble with my pen, or I fumble with my phone, or my speech gets interrupted, or yes, I do. I start to walk really fast. Once you've identified your habits and you start to think about that, when you see one, the little hack is just stop. Just stop for 30 seconds. Stop everything for 30 seconds. Just stop 30 seconds. Just do a little bit of breathing, just to put the brakes on that one particular habit. It's just a way to start to build your awareness that, oh, I'm speeding up again. I'm doing one of my rushing habits. I'm literally telling my brain that we're in danger and I got to get the hell out of here. So when you start to recognize the habits in real life after you IRL, after you've put them on a list that you kind of go over, like, oh yeah, I got to be careful of walking fast. I have to be careful of trying to talk too fast. I have to be careful about ending conversations early. And when you find yourself doing those things, just put a little pause in there for 30 seconds. Just breathe, allow the discomfort, allow the fear, and just put a little space between you and that automatic rushing response. That's a really good first little hack that I put in the book to sort of teach you what it would look like to start to disengage from that speeding up thing and instead try to begin to slow down. So that was chapter 3. What does your rushing response look like? It just takes you through some typical examples that would be indicators that, yes, you are speeding up and rushing around, and talks about how to become aware of those things, do a little homework, start to make a list of what your rushing habits are, and then start to become aware of them in real life as they happen and begin to slightly just disengage with them 30 seconds at a time. So it's sort of the first steps toward starting to learn to go a little bit slower. So that's chapter 3. Let's go through some questions. I will try to take questions. Let's see what everybody has here. Florida is roasting. Sorry, Florida. It's actually crazy cool in New York right now. The last few days, it's unseasonably cool. It's like early spring here, and it shouldn't be. Let's see. So let's put some stuff up on the screen here. Carol, what's going on? My husband keeps telling me to stop pacing and slow down. This is a good comment because earlier on in this book, I said one of the ways that you can recognize an anxious person in many situations is that they're the person running around like they're on fire. It's a really good way to pick an anxious person out in the crowd. That is a really good indicator. And if people in your life have told you repeatedly, slow down, that's a good indicator that, like, oh, okay, I'm running around. So when the people in our life point that out to us, like, why are you rushing around? Why are you running around? Slow down. People tell just slow down, calm down. That's a good indicator. Like, oh, okay, I'm running around like a lunatic right now. Okay, so keep that in mind. Aurora has to chime in here. I could probably hold my breath longer than Wim Hof himself at this point. Many people are breath holders, so that's pretty common, and it is one of those things. Curiously, people who are breath holders also tend to be rushers, speed demons, which is really weird because physically, if you're going to try to run out of the supermarket and also hold your breath at the same time, you will naturally wind up in an out of breath thing. So it's completely like counterproductive. I'm going to hold my breath and try to rush through this challenge to get out of it. Like you're putting an extra demand on your body and holding your breath at the same time. It's a really bad combination. You will wind up gasping for air. but for legitimate reasons, for physiological reasons, not dangerous. It's just your body saying, "Oh, dude, you got to breathe heavy here because why have you been holding your breath for the last 45 seconds while you're running through the supermarket?" It makes no sense to do both of those things at the same time. But it's super common, super common. Um, let's see. Again, a quick reminder: if you're in the Facebook group right now, I can't see your name. I'm sorry. I've been practicing doing things slower whenever I am highly anxious. That is the whole premise behind the book. That's why I wrote 7% slower. It's a good thing to practice. It just sends that signal back down the chain that says, "I know you think this is a huge emergency right now because you had a scary thought or you had a scary sensation, but it's not. And let me show you it's not by going slow." Your thoughts, sensations, those things are red lights, danger, danger. Slowing down is a green signal. Everything's cool. It's all good. So that's what we want to do. Here's a reasonable question. What about white knuckling? White knuckling probably is a blanket, blanket description for speeding up and going really fast, right? So when we say, for those of you who don't know what white knuckling is, it's when it comes from that whole, like, if you grip the wheel so hard, or you grip something so hard that your hands change color, get white or red. We call that white knuckling. Just because it means you're hanging on for dear life, which is a bracing thing. Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and you hang on for dear life. That's white knuckling. And yeah, if you're engaging in white knuckling through an exposure or a challenge, there's a really good chance that you're probably speeding up. Oh, I forgot to turn off my screen blanking again. Let me turn that off because I don't need my screen to blank. Let's see what comes next. Ooh, this is good. Impatience is an early sign for me. Yes, if you start to get really impatient, I need things to get done now. Here's a couple of places where this really shows. Lines, or for our British friends, queues. Like, if you see that there is a line or a queue forming, oh no, 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 no. When is this? This has to go faster. This has to go faster. This needs to go faster. It's sometimes impatience really shows in red lights when you're driving. Like, oh no, no, no. Like, it's a red light now. I have to wait, and I can't wait. I'm impatient. I got to keep going. So when you notice yourself getting really impatient, that's another good sign. So very good. Let's see here. This is really good too. Let's pop this in here. I drive faster too. So this kind of ties into the whole driving anxiety thing, where people are genuinely afraid that when they get anxious, they lose control of the vehicle. Like, I won't. It's not safe to operate a vehicle this way. But those very same people, when I say, "Well, how did you get home?" Well, I drove home. Well, how did you pull over? Well, I pulled over. So it's super interesting that GBG says that he notices that he drives faster. Many people, probably in this room, 60 people right now, I bet at least 17 or 18 of you will say, "Oh, yeah, I do that." When I'm driving and get anxious, I start to drive faster to get to where I'm going, or to get to safety, back to home, wherever you think you're going to be safer. So, crazy as it sounds, everybody seems to think that they are more dangerous driving when they drive, but yet you get really good at maneuvering the vehicle at higher rates of speed. Amazing how that works, isn't it? So, so thanks for putting that out there. I appreciate it. Um, let's see here. This is really funny. Let me pop it up here. Yes, but couldn't leave my shopping cart. I was in turbo mode and hurried. I did self checkout. Would have won if I was on that shopping show minute to win it. Believe me, I have spent more than enough of my time back in those days in supermarkets, like, going through the checkout line in record times. Or how about that thing where it's not self checkout, and oh no, the thing doesn't scan, and the poor person running the cash register now has to see how much that is. And I don't care what it is in your cart at that time. If the person can't find the price and you got to get out of there really quick because you think you're going to panic, or you're in a panic mode, I don't care if it's the insulin that keeps you alive because you're diabetic. You'd be like, "It's okay, put it back. I don't need it," and you run out of there. I get that. I really do. But that's the thing that we can catch, right, and work on. Let's see here. Oh, this is really good, Marina. I appreciate this. This is an interesting comment. A speed response for me is a fear that I might get stuck. Like, if I slow down, I might get stuck or freeze. And so if you go fast, somehow or other, you will keep that from happening. That's interesting. I'm not sure that I've ever heard that before, but I could completely understand why that might be a thing. So you're speeding up as a way not just to escape, but to not get trapped or stuck, which is one of those thoughts that your brain is throwing at you. You're going to get stuck. You're going to be frozen. You got to keep moving fast so you don't freeze. Okay, I'll pop this up here real quick. How can I slow the head down? The racing is unbearable. You can't do that. This is the bad news on this. People want to know this all the time. How do I slow my brain down? How do I stop my brain? You can't. We don't get to just tell our brains to turn off. What we have to do is keep sending these signals back again and again and again and again. While your brain is racing, you can still function. That is possible. Now, you may be at a point in recovery where you say, no, that's impossible. Can't do. Okay. Well, you're going to have to reach the point where you see that you actually are functioning even with those racing thoughts. So there is no magic switch that says, and I know everybody wants this, like, what's the switch that turns off my racing brain? The switch that turns off your thoughts is behavior. So we behave differently and our brain will follow along. People tend to get confused with that. Like they think they should change the way they think. I should somehow learn to not think those things or not have those scary thoughts. Or I should somehow be able to flip a switch and not be afraid. But in all those cases, we know more and more and more that we lead with behavior. And that's some of the differences between sort of old school CBT and the newer stuff. Whereas the old school stuff was very focused on trying to change the content of your thoughts, worksheets and exercises and cognitive reframing. Really, we're knowing more and more and more these days that, like, no, 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 we lead with different behavior and then thoughts follow. So when you allow your brain to race and stop treating it like a racing brain is an emergency, then you can start to slowly, your brain will begin to get the message and won't feel the urgency to race anymore. I wish I had a faster answer for you. Sorry, faster, pardon the pun, but that's the way that works. Um, oh, this is good too. This is really good. Thanks for pointing this out. When I'm in speed mode, I tend to forget what I've done. So if you find yourself asking these kind of questions, wait, did I check in, or where did I put my lunch? Is my locker door closed? That's another good indicator that you're just rushing, rushing, rushing. So that's really good comment. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Um, there we go. Somebody actually answered the racing thoughts thing. Somebody I thought said, when I get anxious, let me scroll up a little bit. I thought I saw somebody say that when they get anxious, they start to get very impatient or maybe a little bit snippy with the partner. Did I see that or no? Here we go. Boom. This is it. Also, rushing slash racing, demanding instant response to questions, demanding instantly to solve a problem. Both you demand that of yourself. I need to solve this fear problem right now. I don't want to. I need to stop this fear right now, and demanding it of others. This is a great comment right here because it's something we don't talk about a lot. But I will tell you that occupying the role that I occupy, and I know that in right now watching Bethany's here, I think Ingville is here. There are admins in the Facebook group that can attest to this also. That is one of the things that causes a bit of a conflict, like in the Facebook community, where we won't allow certain behaviors like safety seeking, reassurance seeking, asking about, am I, can you talk me through a panic attack? When you get really short tempered, like, no, 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 you have to let me talk about this and I have to talk about it right now. That's another good indicator that, like, I need to go. I'm speeding up and I'm rushing because I'm trying to find immediate safety. So excellent. Very good. Thanks for the IRL tips. Always up for IRL. You know that. Okay. Let's see here. I'll put it up. So, my friend Mohammed, this is a thing that I know you come in every week and you ask every week. And the answer is always the same. I can't say what this is, right? I can't say what this is. What is the best therapy for it? Clearly being bullied and maybe being, I'm not sure exactly what the situation is, but clearly this has been impactful on you, my friend. So in certain instances, a cognitive behavioral approach is really good. In other instances, it's not necessarily. So I can't really tell you this because I don't know you and I don't know your specific situation. But I will tell you that it would help to really talk to somebody in real life. Like, at least reach out to the help that you might have available to you and see if you can get somebody in real life, in person help who can start to guide you through that. Clearly, that was impactful for you. And I'm very sorry that you lived that experience. Nobody should have to deal with that. But I can't tell you what the right therapy would be. And it's not always this, right? I am the first person to say that this sort of stuff that I write about, that I speak about, cognitive behavioral therapies, metacognitive therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, we're targeting specific things, anxiety disorders. We're not necessarily talking about everything. This therapy isn't a solution for everything. I can't tell you that. I would highly urge you to talk to people in person and have somebody in person who can actually know what your story is, start to understand where you might be best served. And I hope you do find the help, dude. You deserve it. All right. So what does Laura have to say? After you got the first step down, which is recognize it, then you just continue to practice, practice, practice. That is it. That is it. This is a really boring game. Like, this is a game that nobody wants to play because it is a whole lot of just repetition and repetition and screwing up and failing and not getting it right and stumbling and making mistakes and going back and repeating again. And we get a little better and a little better and a little better. So yeah, it's practice, practice, practice. And I always want to always, at least once, we have to acknowledge that what I'm saying here is really hard. Like, when your brain is screaming at you to rush around, speed up, get answers, everybody needs to help me right this minute, and you are going against that, it's not easy to do. It's not easy. You will feel more uncomfortable, more afraid, more vulnerable. It'll feel wrong. It'll feel reckless, but there's nothing we can do about that. This is the way it works. Okay, let's see here. I get up. Okay, let's see here. Donna says, I get up and start cleaning till I start panicking. So that's a good indicator for you then. Like, if you know that you are like, oh, I got to get up and start cleaning things. And if cleaning is a way, I get up and start cleaning when okay, I'm sorry, but Don, I had you wrong. I see your new one. I get up and start cleaning when I start panicking. So that's a thing that maybe you want to work on. Like, instead of thinking that I have to start jumping up and cleaning my house because I'm panicking and this will stop it or distract me or calm me down, you'll have to start working on not doing that. Like, and one of the basic premises that we always operate on here is if you do nothing, literally nothing, but sit there and let the panic happen, it will peak and then it will fall off. That is just the way a panic attack works if you don't fuel it. So when it hits, if you immediately jump up and start cleaning furiously because you have to get away from that panic, you're actually fueling it, to tell you the truth. So that's a tough one. Um, let's see. Walking and breathing slow at the frozen pizza section. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, this is good. I'm glad we talked about this. Impatience and then getting grumpy, but I'm working on it. Okay, that's a really good indicator too. And it's kind of normal, I think, for that to happen. When we think that we are in danger and we just demand that we get out of that danger and we get rid of the, nobody wants to be afraid. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. I can't tolerate this. I need to stop it right now. You start to get impatient with yourself. You get grumpy with yourself. And when you demand that other people calm you down, soothe you, save you, accommodate you, and they don't, then you start to get angry and grumpy with them. That's normal. That doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You're not a bad person. You're not selfish. You're just afraid. So it's okay to get grumpy. Like, just understand that if I'm feeling really grumpy and snippy with people and I feel like everybody's abandoning me, then it can't, then something's wrong with me. No, that's not true. You're just afraid. So allow that emotion. It's okay. We have to move through that. Let's see here. Marianne, how are you? Good to see you. How can we slow our thoughts when we're in high stress situations? I think that's the same answer that I had before. You can't just automatically slow your thoughts. But one of the tools that I love using, I love breathing practice. I love meditation practice. I love focus practice because everybody's brain races from time to time. When I have a lot of stuff going on, I have 70,000 things that I'm tracking in my brain at one time. And there are many times when it's like, oh, well, what am I doing? I could just take a minute or two and just bring my focus back to my breath for a minute or two. And doing that isn't a switch, but it does slow things down a little bit, put space between me and my thoughts. So you can learn to do that. But notice that that was behavior. There was no words. I didn't tell myself to calm down. I didn't flip a switch. I literally, behaved a different way and worked on that and practice it and practice it and practice it. And then I get better at it. So that's how that works. No, 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 no. Let's see here. Well, a lot of people are saying, and I won't put them all up in here, but a lot of people are saying that, well, I just can't slow down. I just can't do it. But you can. That thing that says I can't slow down, basically, I'll rephrase that for you. I can't slow down really says it's really uncomfortable for me to slow down, or it's really hard to slow down. And later on in the book, we'll talk about it in a future live stream. But later on in the book, I talk about reasons why you might not want to slow down. One of them is if I slow down, I will feel all the things. So a lot of people will say it's impossible. I can't slow down because if I slow down, I will feel the full force and effect of the panic, the anxiety, the fear, the thoughts. They'll be loud. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, the answer to that is yeah. But that's what we're learning how to do. We're learning how to move through those things. All right. So it's really important. Kathleen had mentioned that going slower is a good way to practice being mindful, which is true. Last week, I actually said that 7% Slower is a very sneaky book because it's a book about mindfulness. But don't tell anybody because they won't want to read it. But it's actually a mindfulness manual, believe it or not. So that's true. Let's see here. I have a long, scary dental procedure. Na, 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 na. Okay, so going slower, it's always interesting to me how, and look, I did this too, so I'm not picking anybody, but everybody says, everybody has thinks that their situation is somehow special. Like, I already want to run away. How do I implement 7% slower during this? Well, I mean, you can't make the dentist go slower. I mean, in this situation, not everything is super literal. Like, oh, and be careful that you're trying to use going 7% slower as a way to stop all the bad feelings. That's not what it's for. That is definitely not what it's for. So be careful of trying to look at this as some sort of technique that stops you from feeling anxious or stops you from feeling anxiety or stops you from feeling panic or stops you from feeling fear. That's not true. It's actually, again, and this is a thing that comes up again and again and again, this is a navigation tool, not an eradication tool. So keep that in mind. But the other thing is, you can do everything slower. Like, when you are full of anticipatory anxiety about your dental procedure, odds are you're speeding up all over the place. So just notice where you're speeding up all over every day and slow that down. But it doesn't necessarily directly address dental fear. Like, this isn't a specific fear tool. Hopefully that helps. Let's see here. No, 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 no. Okay, let's put this up here. Get this one really quick here. Often the racing thoughts accompany intrusive thoughts. And it happens so fast, I think they're one and the same. But I think you are saying that racing and fighting it can lead to intrusives. No, I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying that when you are trying to, like, oh my God, my brain is racing. I have to slow down. I have to slow down. I have to fight these thoughts. You're adding fuel to the fire. There's no doubt about that. Whether or not that specifically causes them to be intrusive, I can't really say. So I'm definitely not saying that. Is that a possible outcome? Sure, it could be. The thoughts get stickier, could be, but it's not automatic. But the fighting the thought because you don't like the thought and trying to race around to get away from it usually is going to speed that thought up and make it even stronger and louder. So will it look like an intrusive thought when that happens? Sure. Operationally, it probably look like an intrusive thought in that moment, but I can't really say whether it would become intrusive and repetitive for you down the road. Uh, Good question, Jen. Let's see here. Thinking and knowing that you are while you are thinking health and thinking and knowing that you are thinking. Oh, yes, this is good. Let me pop this up on the screen. Thinking and knowing that you are thinking while you are thinking. So, and my morning newsletter, The Anxious Morning, that's at theanxiousmorning.com. You should check that out. I did that. I did a whole series on that. And one of the great statements that I love, framing statements that informs action like slowing down, is the realization I am thinking. The statement I am thinking to me is a hugely powerful statement. I am thinking, I am feeling. Those are two statements of fact that just, okay, I'm thinking now. And it helps you put a little bit of space between the fact that you are thinking, the content and the thoughts of the thoughts, and treating the thoughts as an emergency. I'm thinking again. Oh, I'm thinking again. Thank you for putting that up there. It's really important. And it can help as part of this slowing down thing. When you realize, oh, I'm thinking, and you could just remind yourself that what's happening right now? I'm thinking. What's happening right now? I'm feeling. Okay. I'm allowed to think and I'm allowed to feel. So let's see here. So boring, says Laura. I'm going to kind of scroll down to the end here. I cannot, asking a question privately, I get thousands, literally thousands of direct messages. I don't see them, to be completely honest with you guys. If you send a message to me on Facebook or you send a message to me on Instagram, I am probably not going to see that message. There are just too many of them, and it would be completely unethical for me to try to give you some sort of one-on-one advice. It would not, that wouldn't be cool at all. You don't want me to do that. So unfortunately, I cannot answer a question in private. I'm sorry, for various reasons. Scroll to the bottom here. When adult. Okay. Well, this is good. I mean, honestly, some people, this is another example of when you can maybe use this when my adult kids are firing orders. I'm going to slow down. That's a good time to slow down. Totally for sure. Right. Um, what's Jen saying there? It's like Fight Club. I'm injuries and Jen's lit up emotions carving into that space. Yeah. Just recognizing, but when your adult kids are firing orders at you and you start to slow down, A lot of people find that this becomes a tool for the rest of their lives also, which is fine. It's a stress management tool also. I use slowing down all the time. I don't have an anxiety disorder anymore, but I still use it all the time. So learning this skill I think is really helpful because it stays with you for the rest of your life and you can use it in a lot of different places, which is great. All right, guys, I think we're good to go. Jen, I appreciate the Fight Club reference. That kind of made me laugh a little bit, but there's some truth in that. And that is it. That is this Recovery Monday. This will stay in my on my Facebook page, my YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel, I think, and just look for the playlist because that's the best way to go back and find them. They'll stay in the Facebook group. I think they disappear forever on Twitch and Twitter. I have no idea. But the best way to come back and see these would probably be on my YouTube channel because I put them in a playlist. Next week, there is no live stream because I am actually out of town next week. I'm traveling. I'll be in New Hampshire. I'll actually be on campus all week in my first clinical residency. So that's super exciting. First of all, I get to actually meet my classmates and my professors, which is going to be great. And I'm looking forward to all those exercises. It's a little brutal because it's like 9 and 10 hours a day. But I'll let you guys know how it goes. I'll try and give you a little bit of behind the scenes if I can. So no live stream next week, but we'll pick it up the week after that. And yeah, that's it. Keep asking questions, whatever. Subscribe to the newsletter in the morning. If you need to find this book, you can find it on my website, which is theanxioustruth.com. Everything is there. And thanks for coming by. Thanks for such great comments. I appreciate it. You guys really make these fun, especially with this book. It's really cool. So anyway, thanks. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good one.